Alright, so here's everything you're going to need to do this. 1/2 inch, 7/16, 3/8. I had the deep wells because they're easier to get in there around all this suspension stuff. Screwdriver because I had to get all the caked 55 years of caked mud off of it. I got a couple of extensions, and then one of them I couldn't get a socket in, so I got a 7/16. And if I turn this over, you'll see that it's a 3/8 because those are the bolts. If you can't guess, my 65 red Corvair Monza Power Glide. Those plates are actually from my wife was a baby in 1965. She loves when I tell people how old she is. Anyway, first step's going to be to pop the hubcap off. As you can see, I got the cool 13-inch Raleigh hubcaps. So to do that, you grab your screwdriver, preferably with a big flat blade. If you don't know how to do that, you probably should get a buddy to help you. But there's the hubcap off. And if you don't already know, this dust cover right here catches your speedometer cable, and that's how it drives the speedometer. So I'm going to pop that off next, and then take off the jack the car up, take off the wheel. See you in a minute. All right, so you use your friendly neighborhood 4-way, which, by the way, they call it a 4-way because it always takes you 4 tries to get the right size lug nut. Anyway, so I've got those loose, and I loosened them on the ground. I've got it on a jack stand. I got my friendly neighborhood jack right here, and as you can see, my car's got some rust issues. That's why I paid what I paid for it. It's not perfect, folks, but it is fun. Anyway, so I'm going to pop this tire off, pop that dust. I'll show you how to pop the dust cap off, and we'll continue. So you grab your channel locks, adjust them, which of course I didn't do ahead of time because that would have made my video so much better. Wiggle that bad boy off, and as you can see, my cable's broken right there. Let me finish taking the tire off, and we'll continue. Alright, so now that I've got my wheel turned, you can kind of see where everything hooks up. You can see the brake line, you can see the cable, the insulation's all shot on it. Kind of goes up into that bracket, goes through that hole, and up into there through the firewall. I guess it's not really a firewall when the engine's in the back, but you get the idea. I don't know what else to call it. And that's your gas line and your vent. It took me a couple tries, but figure out the right combination. But a 7/16 deep dish, or long, I don't know what you call that, deep well, that's probably the word. And get it in there, get it on that bolt. It took me about 2 minutes to clean all the dirt off of it because it's probably been in there since the 60s. So I've got that loose. As you see, my cable's broken. I'm going to take that bracket off, and I'll be back. Alright, I started taking it off, and that's when I realized that, hey, there's another bolt on the back of this thing because it wouldn't come loose. So I couldn't get a socket in there. End up using a 7/16 wrench. So I'm going to take the other one off. Alright, so you kind of, I already did it, but you kind of wiggle this cable. There it is. Kind of wiggle this cable out of that hole after you get the 2 screws. And now that I've got it out of there, you can kind of see where the 2 screws are. The bottom one here is a little tough to get to with this ratchet. I had to use a socket to get on it. I think I even, yeah, I did. I had to use the open end wrench to get on it, to get it in there. And I had to clean off all the dirt. 50-some years of dirt. 55 years of dirt. Alright, same thing here. You've got a 1/2 inch, and again I used a deep dish socket just to make it easier to get in there. Alright, I am now laying upside down and on the floor. Nice thing to Corvairs, they have a flat floor. If I can get the camera just right. There is where it connects inside the car. That little nut thingy was already off on mine. It doesn't want to come out very easily, so I called a Corvair buddy of mine, and he said, just make sure you get the cable somewhat straight so there's some slack in it, and just wiggle it out. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, let's see if I can get enough light up in there so you can see. You can kind of see the back of the, there it is, that's where it goes. And as you can see, little bit of force properly applied. And there it is. So now, if you look up under here, all that cable, there's just about enough room for me and the camera to be in here, but there's where it goes through the firewall. So I'm going to push it through there, and I'll be back in a minute. Alright, so I'm starting to put the new one back in, and what was happening was this little guy right here starts sliding down the cable. So what I'm going to do, and I recommend you do this, I'm going to put a little electrical tape around the end of it to hold that on, so I'll be right back. Alright, it's not pretty, but that's going to keep it from sliding down and getting caught inside the round by the gas tank, so be right back. Alright, I like doing things by myself, but I'm thinking it would be very beneficial to have a buddy to help you. Unfortunately, I don't have any friends, so I can't get that. But now that it's inside the car, and you can see the tape on it, let me cover this up, that'll probably help. There you go. And you can see the tape on it. I'm going to take the tape off. I'm going to shove it up back in the back of the speedometer, which is, again, if I get the light right, probably edit some of this out, but, and as you can see, I need to do a little repair work for rust up under here too, but there's my speedometer right there. Come on, you can find it. There you go. So right to the back of there, I'm going to wiggle it in there. I'm going to tighten the nut on those threads there, and I'll go back to underneath the car and hook it up. See you in a minute. And while you're under here, and before you hook it up to the cable, you're going to want to put, that's the metal part of the rubber ring. I had to kind of just push the rubber ring through that to get it off so that I could get the head out. But you want to make sure you put that on before you hook it up to the speedometer. Ask me how I know. Alright, after about 5 or 10 minutes of shoving it in, pulling it out, wiggling it around, I finally had to go and get my grease gun, throw a little bit of grease on it. It's finally all the way in there, I believe. And I put my dust cap back on that I took the old broken cable out of, and I sat down here somewhere. Anyway, so there you have that. I took the brake drum off thinking I might need to take it off, but I didn't. Alright, all buttoned up, as you can see. It's a working. Come on, Sybil.